Hello, and welcome to Husky Talk. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I would like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon Partners, they specialize in wealth management, retirement planning, and employee benefits. They are also one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of Husky Talk. We love Sean. We wish him the best. He's going through a difficult time right now. His son, unfortunately, has leukemia, needs a bone marrow transplant. They are doing testing at UConn. I encourage everyone to come out for it. If you cannot, we will put the link to the website where you can actually have a testing kit sent to your house. Quick cheek swab, mail it back, and you could be the match to save Ben's life. I would also like to thank Pete Finch in the Finch Law Firm. If you have had any type of personal injury, if you've been injured in a car accident, slip and falls, dog bites, always fighting with insurance companies, Pete will help his clients recover money for their most catastrophic injuries. And if you feel you've been wrongly convicted in a pinch, call Finch. And then finally, Bleeding Blue for Good. Bleeding Blue for Good, Mike Burton. Since he's been involved, we've won 7 games. We're bowl eligible, and we have improved tremendously. Transfer portal opens in 4 weeks. We need to raise money. Mike did it all on his own last year with 10 people. And we are seeing it pay off with talent like Skylar Bell, with talent like Darrell Robinson, Nick Evers. The guys that he gets are making a difference. We want to have continued success. Go to www.bleedingblueforgood.org and donate to football today. And that combined with basketball will put us in a conference. And now for the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, a legend, Mike Sasson, former UConn offensive lineman, and basically took care of me my freshman year. And I'm very, very happy to see him again. And he looks spectacular. He looks like he hasn't aged a bit. It's amazing.
It's healthy living, healthy California living out here. Absolutely,
healthy California living. That's what it is.
There you go.
Well, I have to say, you look spectacular. I have to also say, I thought I saw you in a newsroom working news. Were you ever working news?
Not necessarily. I've done a lot of stuff in media. I was in. If we're going to get into it, so basically, at one point, I hosted a sports talk show on cable in Pittsburgh.
I was
on the Fan in Pittsburgh, and also was part of a comedy morning show in Pittsburgh before I moved out here to LA. And then also I've been part of 3 podcasts. One was called No Restrictions with a couple really great comics out in Pittsburgh, Jim Kren, Terry Jones, and Mike Wysocki. And then I was part of my own for 4 years called The Mike Sasson Show. And then I was now I have a podcast out here with a local LA comic, Ron Bush, called Mike and Ron Here to Help, in which we a lot of different media jobs and all that kind of good stuff.
I saw your sports show in Pittsburgh. That's what I remember. You were excellent. You always provided excellent commentary. You were always entertaining, and that's where I saw clips of. And I believe I did hear you on the Fan because I thought that was so cool because that's everyone's dream to be on the Fan. So you getting that opportunity is awesome. And being out in California now doing comedy, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And it's funny because we have a comedy club here in good old upstate New York, which you may remember from the time we went to the Buffalo Bills game. I would love to get you booked here. See if we can get you out here for a show.
Yeah,
we have Fat Cats Comedy Club. And
Was that at a Utica, Syracuse?
It's New Hartford. It's New Hartford. So
okay. Yeah.
I like a couple teammates have brothers, like Terry McClowry came in after you. His brother, Matt McClowry, he's a comedian. He's like open for Kevin Hart. He's done some big things. We got him booked here. I actually picked him up at the airport, brought him, and they took care of him. All the guys came in to watch his show. So I'm sure like Burton and those guys would do the same for you. They'd love to see you perform. So I will definitely.
In beautiful New Hartford, New York. Yeah, we'll make it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful New Hartford, New York. There's nowhere you'd rather be. But yeah,
can't imagine a better place in the world. No.
Yeah, there isn't. There's only about 10 million, but we would love to get you out here to perform because you're doing incredible things. But to start back, you played football. I know that you're from Pennsylvania. I know that you're from a certain area in Pennsylvania. Are you technically from Pittsburgh?
I'm from a suburb that borders Pittsburgh. I'm a little municipality called Aspinwall, which is literally about 15 minutes away from downtown Pittsburgh. Okay. So literally right on the Allegheny River. So if you ever watch like Steeler games and you see Acrisure Stadium, that river that goes across it, you go up at about 10, 15 minutes, you'll eventually hit Aspinwall. And that's where I grew up. So, I mean, legitimately, I cross a bridge and I'm technically in the city of Pittsburgh. Yeah, pretty darn close.
And did you play football early on? Did you start at an early age? Like 7,
I
8,
played
9?
a little at the Pop Warner level. It's a funny story. You probably know this because of being a big guy yourself. They had the weight limits.
I was always on a diet. I was the only 10 and 11-year-old on a diet.
Well, I was, So what happened was I was 9 years old, first time playing, and they wanted me to play with the 14-year-olds. And
they were going to move you up to, oh my God.
Yeah, to go play, with 14-year-olds. And my mom was like, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. So then my first time then after that playing was in 7th grade. So then just middle school all the way up till high school.
I had the same issues. I played 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I had to play at middle school because I just couldn't make weight. It was like, I think it was like 148 was like the tops.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about like all the kids that played, if they were, especially the linemen, like you could be some good skill guys and everything like that. But I mean, most of the linemen typically didn't play in the Pop Warner because, big kids, big 8-year-olds eventually become big 18-year-olds. So, I can understand it. You don't want a gigantic guy knocking the hell out of another 8-year-old, but
no, they sure do. But it's funny now in New York, there is no weight limit. They don't have weight limits anymore because it's discriminatory against the fat kids. So now they let anyone play.
About time we had some civil rights for the obese. Yeah, way to go.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
I
don't understand how we'd have any sort of how did they protest? I didn't think the fat kids would want to start walking. So I mean, there had to be something.
I had a theory: fat people were going to rule the world someday.
We already do. What are you talking about? Everything is for the chubby.
Yes, it is. We're getting fatter
except airplane seats. That's the only thing. Ooh. That's the last frontier.
Yeah, that's the rough one to conquer. Unless you go on JetBlue. JetBlue, you get a little more room, but otherwise, boy, you're packed in. You're absolutely packed in. So you started in 7th grade, and did they immediately put you on the line?
Yeah. There was no discussion. Yeah, there was let's see if you can throw the football. No, it was immediately on the offensive line.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had a good punch. You were good. You were a real good athlete. Good footwork. Were you always at tackle?
No, the funny thing about it is the fact that it's very similar to how I became a center at UConn. Was when I was like 9, 10 years old in that initial like Pop Warner League. They taught us all how to snap.
How to snap. Okay.
So then when I got to 7th grade, I already knew how to snap. So then the coach was like, well, hell, he'll just play center. Because, I mean, it's one of those things to where nothing really starts until you can actually do the center the center quarterback exchange. So it's great if your offensive tackle is knocking the hell out of the defensive end. If the ball's on the ground, nothing happens. So they were just kind of like, so my 7th, 8th, and even my 9th grade year, they had me at center. And then eventually when I got to high school, there was a guy named Kevin Carrozza who eventually played center at Temple, who was already at center. So that's when they bumped me out to tackle. And that's where I played when I was my junior and senior year at Fox Chapel.
Yeah, because I couldn't believe that. I did hear the story that you came in at UConn as a center, right?
Well, we came in at UConn, basically Skip had it to the point where it was like we were just linemen.
You did it all.
And then we just kind of figured it out from there. Like that's one of the things about our offensive line was I coached offensive line eventually when I coached my brother in high school. And when you're trying to put together an offensive line, you're trying to legitimately put the best 5 guys out there. And so it was one of those things to where you go, okay, it's not you're a tackle. It's okay, you're best for the team at tackle. Yes. So I show up, and when I first got there, they initially put me at guard at UConn. Okay. And I played a little there. Then because they needed some depth on as a tackle, they put me at tackle. And then the funny thing is, my sophomore year, we needed a center, and going back to the training of being able to snap the ball, literally Coach Googs just comes up to me and I told him, I said, hey, in a pinch, I can actually snap the ball. And pre-practice, Googs brings Skip over and just sits there and goes, watch this, and I do a snap and goes up to Shane and he goes, how'd it feel? He goes, good snap. And they were like, oh, okay. And then 24 hours later, they were like, yeah, you're starting center.
That's unbelievable.
So it goes all the way to 9 years old, learning it from some yinzer to do it, and it goes all the way to college. Yeah.
I played center a couple games in arena ball. It was the toughest position I've ever experienced. It was so hard because you had a guy directly over you, and snapping and stepping and staying low, especially you being taller. I always like shorter centers. I thought it was
the funny thing about it is, like you said, I always found that pass protection was harder on the inside because everybody always talks about that.
Yes.
Pass protection is, you put the tackles, that's where the athletes are. And that's where the faster defensive ends are, but you just basically ride them out. And exactly. I always felt that was a lot easier than being on the inside where the guy could go either way. And if you get blown back, you're right into the quarterback's lap. So I always felt that the interior, and then again with guys like Aaron Donald and stuff like that, that's almost become more important because if you can get that interior push, then it's almost even more deadly than if you have that outside pass rush kind of guy.
I 100% agree with you, and I struggled anytime I had to play inside. Anytime I had to play inside, I thought it was much harder. And you're right; you're directly behind the quarterback. So if you get beat, he is right.
Well, your quarterback's directly behind you.
Yeah, the quarterback's right. Sorry, yeah. CTE.
Come on, Steve. Come on.
Yeah, I got to get with it.
Honestly, let me ask you. I'm if there's any CTE in my brain, I'm looking forward to it.
I know, right?
I mean, you talk about all these people worried about today's world. We're not going to remember a damn thing.
You're not going to remember anything. Everything's going to be new and fun, and
every day is going to be a new journey. How were you when you were 20? No, I don't know. I don't remember any of it. That's going to be. It's a blessing, Steve.
You're going to meet new people every day.
Every single day. You're going to meet new people. You're going to meet yourself every day.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a great life.
Yeah,
but
I'm looking forward to it.
So that's right. Fox Chapel. Wasn't that a really good school?
No.
Okay, that was a bad
academically, yes. But football wise, we were the proverbial rich kid school. I wasn't a rich kid, but I was at the rich kid school.
You were at the rich kid
school.
So
we would be if you go to anybody in Pittsburgh and you say, oh, I have a buddy at Fox Chapel, that's like saying here in Los Angeles, I have a buddy who lives in Pacific Palisades. I have a buddy who lives in Bel Air. And so it's one of those things to where, I mean, and that actually kind of played into my decision to go to UConn, because we played at the highest level of Western Pennsylvania football. And especially back then, like I remember going to UConn my first year, and they said that, oh yeah, the state of Connecticut had like 9 kids go Division I that year. And I counted, I had 13 out of my section.
Oh, I know the state of Connecticut.
Yeah. So the thing is that like we had McKeesport that had Brandon Short, who played for the Giants. We had North Hills that had LeVar Arrington. Yes. We had Central Catholic who had Mark Bulger. So I mean, every school just, that we had a couple guys who played. I mean, we played Penn Hills, which was the school that produced Aaron Donald and Bill Freilich. They had 3 guys on their offensive line who all went to Pitt, and eventually 2 of those guys became the starting tackles at the University of Pittsburgh. Were on one high school offensive line. Wow, and that was me. So like that made me sit there. Like I had like some inkling of interest from like lower level, like MAC and kind of struggling 1A schools. But UConn came along and I was like, well, I have a better chance of winning there, which is why. And at the time they were telling us that we were going to be 1A by our senior year. So I thought, hey, it's a great school. They're building new facilities. It's going to be great. Coach Holtz had just come from Notre Dame. So I felt it was better than, let's say, going to Temple or a MAC school or something like that. So that played into my eventual going to the University of Connecticut.
I interviewed a couple guys from earlier generations. Hezekiah Faison, Lenny Dandridge was one of the running backs, and then Wilbur Gilliard.
Yeah, and I played with Hez and Wilbur.
As far back as when they were getting recruited, they were being told the same thing. Like, we're going 1A, we're going to the Big East, and it's going to happen by yourself.
I saw the blueprints. And they told me where the stadium was going.
It was going to be on campus?
It was going to be behind Jungle.
And because I know they complained about the traffic, that was a big thing.
Okay, let's get into that. So basically, what happened was, so I said point blank to Coach Holtz when I was getting recruited. The plan was, so my freshman year was 1995. The plan was that we were going to be redshirt. I was going to be redshirted in 1995. 96 was going to be our last year in FCS 1AA. Then 97 and 98 were supposed to be our transition years into that. And then 99 was supposed to be the first year of the stadium and the first year in the Big East. And that would have been my 5th year senior year.
Correct.
Now, what happened was in 96, there was a governor in Connecticut named John Rowland.
The guy that was corrupt.
Yeah. Well, he's a politician in Connecticut. Of course, he's corrupt.
They're all corrupt.
Yeah. The ones that aren't corrupt are the ones that are weird. So the thing is that he was running for re-election in 96. And this was during the middle of like the Clinton boom era, and everybody was doing great in Connecticut and making lots of money. And everybody loved John Rowland. He was going to win by a billion votes.
I know.
So what happened is the only thing that the Democratic challenger could come up against him was the fact that he was wasting taxpayer money on things like building stadiums and going 1A and all this other kind of stuff. Really? So he legitimately, running up to the 96 election, which would have been like November of 1996, basically was like, no, we're not going 1A. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have any plans for that. That's not going to happen. So that delayed it enough to where then it knocked it back a couple years. And that's why everything got delayed a year or two, to where that time frame was just pushed up a couple years. But yeah, it was supposed to happen very early, which is why one of the reasons why the 98 team was so good. Those were kids that were supposed to be 1A. Those were kids that we were expecting to be playing Pitt in West Virginia and Miami at that point. Yeah. So we were able to go in, because before I got there, Western Pennsylvania was not a place that UConn really ever went into. Right. And Coach Holtz went into Florida, and Coach Holtz went into places that had not really gotten, UConn had not really gotten those type of kids. And the kind of the carrot was, hey, we're going 1A. We're going to go to the Big East. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. And my recruiting visit in 95, you imagine like a really cool recruiting visit, was the Martin Luther King weekend, where it started with the UConn women against Tennessee at Gamble, which is, I just watched the documentary that that's like the pinnacle. That's like the moment when UConn women's basketball arrived. So that was my afternoon. And then in the evening, it was Big Monday, UConn versus Georgetown, Ray Allen versus Allen Iverson, where we had court seats.
Oh my!
So you want to talk about like showcasing what UConn could be? You see those two big things, and then you're meeting Lou Perkins and Harry Hartley and all these guys showing you the blueprints, going, and now this is what we're going to do with football. That's when I was like, oh yeah, sign me up. I'm in. This is what I want. This is it.
I didn't know that the governor had more power than the athletic director, but I should realize because it's a state institution. So, right.
Well, I mean, they wanted government money. And so really the state, as I understand it, they didn't really give a damn. This was supposed to be like John Rowland's kind of like, John Rowland wanted one of the things that was like, 100 years from now, they're like, and we have 1A football in Connecticut because of John Rowland. So he wanted that to be his thing. And the legislature, the state legislature, because they were just so, they were like, hey, this guy's really popular. And, again, how politics works, one hand wash the other. He's like, yeah, we'll get you your stadium, but you get me blah, blah, blah. And when he kind of dropped it and said, hey, this isn't something we're going to do right now, then the legislature was like, well, then never mind. And then they picked it up in 2000, and that's when they ultimately got the money to build Rentschler Field.
Well, initially it was the threat because the Patriots were going to move there.
Well, that's the other thing.
They leveraged.
That was supposed to be, it was the on-campus stadium. Yeah. Then the next thing was the Patriots signed the agreement. They were coming, and we were going to play in that stadium.
Yes.
Like that was going to be the UConn football stadium, downtown Hartford, 70. It was going to be like how Pitt plays in the Steelers stadium and USF plays in Tampa Stadium. We were going to play in the Patriots stadium. And then when Kraft got got everything together, which hurts me to say this, I read Dan Rooney, he's passed away, but the owner of the Steelers, he was one of the major one of the major people that pushed the Patriots to stay in Boston. He actually had a ton of influence because of the fact of how much, it was the archdiocese and his background in Ireland and everything like that. He had a lot of influential people that he knew up in Boston, and he helped Kraft kind of move forward. So as a Pittsburgh guy and a Steeler fan, it kind of hurts to hear that, one of the reasons why I didn't get to play 1A football was because of, the guy who owned my favorite team kind of pushed him out of Hartford and kept him in Boston area.
See, like I always thought that it was Kraft using the stadium as leverage to get Gillette built. So it wasn't
probably a little bit, but I think according to Mr. Rooney's book, he didn't necessarily, he was kind of a newbie to the area.
Yeah.
And he didn't have as much pull. He was trying to use it as leverage to say, I mean, like any good businessman, he wants to have a backup to where if nothing works, he goes, okay, well, at least I have the stadium in Hartford. And also because it was close enough mile-wise, it's like, for instance, like San Francisco Stadium is like an hour or so outside of San Francisco. It's south. So they didn't have to say, hey, I'm moving anywhere because they were still in the
New England.
Yeah, they'd still be the New England Patriots because they're in Hartford as opposed to Boston. So that's why he put it in Hartford, because he was close enough to where he could just sit there and say, build it there. But yeah, that was the other play that would ultimately have made it that I could have played 1A football.
Because they told us that when we were being recruited, the same thing, the Patriots were going to come there. And I didn't know, I knew it was signed and sealed, delivered, and then all of a sudden they backed out. And
they found some loophole to where the whole point was they needed the stadium done by a certain date. And because they did like some environmental studies of the land and found that they had to like clean it up, that they wouldn't have met that date, that gave him the out to be able to go someplace else.
Because I actually had Randy on the podcast, And I said, it's admirable when Randy came in to get the stadium built, and he got the indoor facility built within 5 years, and he was 40 years old. For a first-time head coach being that young, being able to get two of those things accomplished, I just thought.
Well, he had a lot of help from the Burtons and the, and the athletic. I mean, like he was obviously part of that, and obviously everything helped. But I mean, it's definitely it was a team effort to get it done, and also I remember talking again it was all about trying to elevate the State University of Connecticut, because if you look at it
altogether, right?
Yeah, I mean, because if you hear the whole story from people that have lived there for years, prior to athletics really kind of lifting the whole university, the University of Connecticut was akin to saying the University of Maine or the University of Vermont. Yeah, whereas now saying the University of Connecticut is like saying Penn State or Virginia or UCLA or something like that. And what raised that level was big-time athletics, was Jim Calhoun and Gino Auriemma and all those kind of guys. And that's one of the reasons why the football program is so important, is that, and we were all following the conference realignments and everything like that. You're not going to be able to sustain a major athletic program long-term unless you get football right, unless you get to a point to where it's respectable, to where you can, because again, that's where the money is. And if you're going to pay Hurley the money he needs and the successor to Gino Auriemma for what they're going to need and all this other kind of stuff, you're going to need, the entity that drives the boat, football, to be right, which is why it was critical for, Mike to get the like you talked about, the NIL going and the respect there. Because I've read so many articles where they state that the reason why UConn's not in a major conference is football. It is commitment to football viability. That's every time they read about it. That's like, yep, every other sport is as good as any in the country. Football viability, football, all that kind of good stuff.
You're 100% right, because football drives the revenue. And this is going to be the first year that schools will be able to pay out that television money. So each school in the Power Five, they're going to get $20 million.
Power 4 at this point, Coach.
Well, the Power 5, right? Power 4.
Where's the fifth?
Well, the Pac-12 will eventually.
You really think they're going to be? I mean, obviously, a lawyer is going to try to fight to keep that.
No, it's going to be the Power 4.
It's
You're
Power
right.
4. Yeah, Well, the funny thing is, at one point it was the Power 6, and then it was the Power 4, and now, that's the real interesting thing is, if Florida State and Clemson. I mean, realistically, what teams that are not in one of those two huge conferences, Big Ten and SEC, are left? Basically, Clemson, Florida State, and Notre Dame. If those three found a home in one of those two conferences, the ACC essentially becomes, they become a glorified version of the American.
They're in their Group 5. Yeah,
they're because that's how. Again, corporate America, everything like that. It's about consolidation. It's about, keeping more money because there's now private equity getting into it, talking about creating a super league. Yeah, there's a lot of different things happening.
Yeah, the NCAA is losing all its power.
I don't even know what they do anymore.
I don't either. Charlie Baker, I thought, made a huge mistake when the NIL lawsuit made its way to the Supreme Court. And they voted unanimously for NIL.
I thought that's one of the things that for years they always said to him, "You'll lose this in court.
You're going to lose."
They should have settled. They should have basically said, "Yeah, you could do name, image, and likeness, but we need to regulate it and all this other kind of stuff." But they just dug their heels in and didn't go to negotiate. And then it went in front of a judge and said, having this $1 billion entity in which the people participating in it can't profit from it is downright illegal. Yeah, you're done.
Antitrust.
So it's the arrogance and stupidity of that organization, which good riddance that they eventually will basically cease to exist. Because I don't know what if you work for the NCAA, what did you do this morning? What is your power? Your whole point was to regulate the sport at this point. I mean, basically, you just put on championships. That's basically all you do.
You're trying to find violations at Michigan, I guess. That's the only thing you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, good luck. I mean, I'm sure
cheating.
the all the stuff they're finding. They just you put USC on probation. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
So yeah, all good organization. Hope they're all enjoying their $500,000 salaries.
And Harbaugh got in trouble and he leaves and nothing's going to happen. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's sure if you went to a Chargers practice, he'd be really concerned.
I know. But wow, that's crazy to think about. And you're 100% right. One of my other co-hosts on the other shows I do thinks the NCAA will cease to exist within 5 years. He said there will be no more NCAA.
Again, if they become what they should become, which is essentially
nobody can
college football right now. If you look at it, the biggest entity in sports is the National Football League. The next biggest is college football.
It's college football.
If they were to consolidate the teams that really drive the revenue, the teams that really get the eyeballs, that really move the needle into one single entity and negotiated it as one thing
for TV,
then and they would get NFL level money.
They would. They would.
That's the $100 million question is what is college football going to look like when it essentially just becomes NFL junior real?
Yeah. That's what it's turning into.
Yeah, that's one of the things everyone's like, oh, well, these guys are getting paid. And I'm like, wink, wink, nod, nod. They've been getting paid for a while.
Yeah, it's been going on for
I love that it's like, how's it going to affect recruiting? Go check the recruiting rankings. It's the same 10 teams that have been recruiting well for the last 40 years. Yeah. All of a sudden they've got great NIL. Maybe they had great NIL for a while now. Alabama. I'm sure all those young kids in California, New Jersey really just love the food in Tuscaloosa. They really enjoyed that. They really loved that trip down there. There was nothing else that was happening.
No, Reggie Bush and his family, they just happened to move out to California and find a place.
Well, he lived in San Diego, but the house that he bought in San Diego was probably something that you couldn't get as a, in a with a part-time job, distributing newspapers. Yeah.
Yeah. Which his family lived in. Yeah. It was
Which I'm all for. How much money did he make the University of Southern California? I went to 2 games this year. It's an 80,000 seat stadium. They have luxury suites. They have all that kind of stuff. He built that. They're still walking around in number 5 jerseys.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't supposed to take any piece of that.
And I can't remember if they gave him back his Heisman Trophy.
They did. You go to the stadium now. They officially gave it back to him, and now they do honor him in the stands, which again proves the NCAA. They just were like, yeah, we can't justify this, and so kind of went from there.
Yeah, I had always wished that the NIL, if Charlie Baker had just put a salary cap on it, said $2 million.
Well, the only entity that could possibly do that would be the conferences themselves. But the problem is if let's say the Big Ten puts it at 20 million, then the SEC knows what to go at. I think the future is flat out like you're a 5-star kid, because if you look at it, the SEC has aligned itself with Disney, which is ABC and ESPN and all that kind of stuff. And the Big Ten is aligned themselves with Fox. So essentially what you've got is 2 media entities, and Texas versus Georgia is a television show. So if you're going to be a main person on a television show, you get compensated by Disney. So I could see Disney flat out going to some 5-star quarterback and saying, you're going to sign a 2 or 3 year deal. You could pick whatever SEC school you want. We prefer it be a name brand like Georgia or an Alabama or a Texas or something like that, because that drives eyeballs. But we're going to sign you to a 2 or 3 year deal, and that'll make it a little bit better. Because I don't understand. Because right now it's basically just year in, year out. You get paid or you don't get paid. Where if they could sign contracts and say, okay, this is a guaranteed 3 year deal, this is a guaranteed 2 year deal, and just have kids, negotiate and work it from there.
Well, that's the one thing Burton has done and done well. Every kid who gets paid is on a contract. He has them have representation and a lawyer look it over. They know their responsibilities and they know what they're going to get paid weekly in each year.
But it's not a UNLV thing where the kid gets out and hasn't been paid at all.
I recruited him too, by the way. Great kid.
Should have been paid. He was worth it. He had him in the top 25.
The casino guy wanted to pay him. They wouldn't let him. There was one of the casinos that wanted to pay him. And
$100,000 to one of those casino magnates that he has that in his shoe. What are you talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't believe, like, I knew that there was a problem, but I can't believe there was that much of a discrepancy.
Well, let me ask you a question. The other rumor was that some SEC or Big Ten school went up to him because if he'd have played one more game, they would have redshirted him and said, hey, if you basically don't play for the rest of the year, you were paying $100,000, you'll get $1 million or $2 million to go to Auburn or go to someplace like that. So he pulled they're not paying me card. And then scoots, and now he's going to miraculously end up at a Georgia next year or something.
I didn't even think of that. Wow, you're right, because there's no regulation on communicating with them. You can communicate,
or you just go through the agent, or you go through his high school coach, or you go around it.
Yeah, they all have agents. They all have third parties. Like because Syracuse, we were so bad for so long. I would always say, if I was Dino Babers at the time, I would go and look at Alabama, who their third string quarterback was, and say, hey, you want to come here and start? We'll pay you. That's how you get.
That's one of the reasons I think that NIL has been a boom to college football. Is that, think about as a UConn fan. Last year, we were if it was just normal recruiting, there's a chance that maybe we would have gotten a couple good high school kids. Maybe we'd have gotten a transfer or two from whatever. But the ability to completely remake the roster and go from a team that won 3 games to now 7 games. You want to talk about the 98 team? They have an outside chance if they can beat Syracuse to match the 10 wins from the 98 team if they can win their bowl game and everything like that. So to do that in 1 year definitely keeps the interest up. And also, if you're a kid, instead of basically sitting around and waiting for 4 years to maybe be the starting quarterback at Ohio State, you go to a place like UConn, you play, you've got your exposure. It's a place that's produced NFL players, and you get a little bit more money and a little bit, all that kind of good stuff. So I actually think it's been a boom. I think the fact that they stopped it for so many years, this in the playoff, was completely just asinine.
It was. And I know some schools, like some of the MAC schools, like Kent State, Miami of Ohio, they tell kids, come here, play for a year, play for 2 years. If you get an opportunity to transfer up, we'll let you go. And that's how they're doing it.
My brother is an offensive line coach and the assistant head coach at Pittsburgh Central Catholic. And one of the things that he finds interesting is the fact that because he's been doing it for 20 years, and so he knows that, okay, this kid 10 years ago would have been a Pitt or a Syracuse kid, is now looking at MAC schools. And this kid a couple years ago that would have been a Penn State kid is now looking at more West Virginia, because the thing is that it's a trickle down, because if you give a scholarship to a transfer, that's one you don't give to a high school kid.
Absolutely.
So now the whole thing is, if you're a high school kid, you need to more or less be somebody that a college believes can play within 12 months. They'll give you 1 year, but you have to be able to play. They have to foresee it that you can play by your true sophomore year, or there's no point of investing in you, because the coach will get fired by then.
It was the least amount of freshmen that were signed last year. So then what are your thoughts on this? The NCAA increasing the scholarship limit from 85 to 105. That's the plan.
I think it has to be done, especially if you're going to run a spring where half your kids are in the transfer portal. Yeah. Or because how are you going to run bowl games? Bowl games are just going to become glorified spring practices.
Well, everyone holds out of them anyway.
Yeah, but that's the point. If you have 105 kids, then you can at least field a team.
Yes.
So
105 full scholarship. Yeah.
So, and I don't know. My big thing is more opportunity and more money for kids is never a bad thing. I remember when I played, I could not rub 2 nickels to rub together. It was a stressful time. Yeah. And so even if let's say, for instance, back when I played, if you would have said, hey, Mike, you're going to make $1,000 a month, that would have changed my entire outlook of how I lived at the University of Connecticut. To be able to go out, to be able to buy a new pair of shoes, to be able to fly home if I wanted to go, would have changed everything.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, we got $20 every Thursday, and $1,000 a month
per diem. That envelope, that was just such a gift. Getting that money on the bus. Oh,
I got
that was such a happy moment when the guy was walking around with the per diem. Just hey, here's $20 for sitting on a bus. That was just such a moment of like, yes, I'm in a good place in life.
Yes. And I remember when the guys would wait to get their Pell Grants. That was the other time. They couldn't wait to get their Pell Grants.
Oh, Pell Grant weekend was a great party weekend.
Yes, Pell Grant weekend, because the thing was, I remember they couldn't keep any of the money. They had to show that they spent it all. Like, they weren't allowed to put it in their bank account and keep it forever. They had to show that whatever they were given, it was spent. So they would do massive parties, shopping.
That sounds like how the government, that sounds like how the Army works. Like, you have to spend the money. So like in the Army, they have the most amazing New Year's Eve and Christmas parties because they have to spend the money. And in college, you're encouraging. That's the thing. You're encouraging these people to freaking party. You're like, well, you got $5,000. Might as well get a DJ. Might as well do something.
You can't save it. So do what you want.
Can't actually teach the kids to invest. You couldn't actually teach them what a credit score was.
Nope. Just go buy whatever you
spend. Not only are we going to give you money, we're going to teach you bad financial habits. So go ahead.
Yes, whatever you
welcome to college.
We can do. Welcome to life. We're preparing you for life.
Yeah.
You came in initially. Was the line coach Hudson, or was Googe there already?
No, Hudson actually recruited me.
It was Hudson who recruited you.
Literally recruited me. Like, he was my coach who came to Western Pennsylvania and talked to my dad and did all that kind of stuff. So Hud was my
he was a hard ass, but he was a good coach.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts talk about him. I think because I was someone that he specifically recruited that he liked me. Now, occasionally he'd say, call me a name or something like that, but I didn't feel any sort. Also, because of the thing, my high school coach coached at Pitt back in the early 80s with his mentor, Joe Moore.
Okay.
So Joe Moore's a Pittsburgh guy, and so Joe Moore knew of me. And so he kind of was like, oh, you're going to. So it was like Hud, Joe Moore, me. It was kind of a nice match and everything like that. So Hud was a huge fan of me.
Okay. Now I know you ended up at UConn. Were you looking? Or did you want to go to Pitt? Did you go to their camp? Did you do anything like that?
So the stupidest advice I'd ever received in the history of my life was from my high school coach. He stated, don't go to camps.
Don't go to camps.
Because they're going to want to see film of you anyway. Which, as a guy who coached in high school for 6 years, I literally would. That is the dumbest advice in the history of dumb advice. Yes. So, I took a couple, I went to a couple games at Pitt. I went to a couple games at West Virginia.
Unofficials, right?
Unofficials. Yeah. Basically, what it came down to with those schools were, they were taking 3 kids. I was their 6th kid.
That's what
I was the hold on, we might need you, kid.
Yeah,
and I wasn't having that, especially considering when I was there, Johnny Majors was at Pitt and they sucked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a school that I was like. This wasn't 1980 Hugh Green, Dan Marino Pitt. This was this was playing in front of 10, 15 people Pitt. The funny thing is and I say this to Pitt people all the time, in 98, Villanova went and played them and put 47 on Pitt.
Oh, Villanova.
And that was the year that we were the New England champs. Villanova was like 500. So correct. I said, you're lucky you didn't play us because we would have beat you.
Yeah,
so that's one of those things where I'm upset that we didn't get that chance to go into Pitt Stadium and beat them. But yeah, that was so. Yeah, Pitt and West Virginia, the schools that really it came down to, because again, I didn't want Ohio came by, I didn't want to go there. Kent came by, Temple came by, Cincinnati came by, Tulsa came by. What?
Buffalo? SUNY Buffalo, University of Buffalo?
No, they were literally still like almost Division II when I was like they weren't doing much of anything.
They were on the way up.
Yeah, and but it's one of those things to where it came down to the 3 visits I took. My first one was to UMass.
Me too. I loved UMass.
Yeah. The second one was literally, again, it was University of Richmond. And then it was UConn. And I went to Richmond Friday, Saturday, ended the visit on Sunday, and then flew directly from Richmond to Hartford. I didn't even go to Pittsburgh. I went directly to my visit in Connecticut, and then took my visit to Connecticut over the Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy, because that's highly unusual to do it that way.
Well, the funny thing is that the coach at Rhode Island wanted me to go to a visit, and initially he had just heard that I had left for a visit on Friday, and then on Tuesday called and wanted to talk to me, and like my sister was like on the phone with him going, Mike's still up at school. And so he thought that I was on a visit from UConn from Friday to Tuesday.
All the way through, yeah.
So he literally starts screaming at my little sister, that's an NCAA violation. They can't stay there for more than 48 hours. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a fun time. He's yelling at my 8-year-old sister.
Yeah, take it out on her. Oh, my God.
Oh, the coach at Rhode Island was a nut job.
They tracked you down. They found your hotel room. They
were furious. Yeah, they were. How dare I have fun at a school that cared about athletics?
Were you offered by the schools you visited, Richmond? And okay, so you were offered, but you didn't make the decision right there after the visit.
So I went to my visit to UMass before the Christmas break.
Yes,
and I had a decent visit with them. They were kind of UConn junior, in a sense of like Mark they were kind of going like, yeah, they got a good program. We've got Marcus Camby. They're going 1A. We're probably going to go 1A. So it was everything that they said was just like, we're going to do that too.
Yeah.
And then the thing is that I had made a commitment to HUD where I was like, I won't make a decision until I visit Connecticut. Right. And he held me to that. And then I took the visit to Connecticut. So then you want to talk about growing up, after my visits, I was in my weight room in high school and Coach Roof from UMass came by. And Coach Roof eventually became like the coach at Duke and had a great career. Yeah. Ted Roof,
yeah.
And
holy crap.
He was in the office, and I remember my high school coach comes up to me and he goes, Coach Roof from UMass wants to talk to you. And I go, okay. He goes, he wants to know what your thoughts are about UMass. And I literally look at my coach and I go, I'm not going. And he goes, well, you go and tell him. So I walked into the office by myself, sat down. Coach Roof is sitting right there, and says, "So, Mike, what's your thoughts?" And I go, "I'm not going to UMass."
Yes.
And he goes, "Where do you think you're going?" And I go, "Probably UConn." And we just sat there, and he goes, "Well,
good luck.
Best of luck." And I go, "Thank you very much." And I just walked out.
Yeah.
And so then what happened, which it's interesting. The last thing that Coach Hud said to me, Coach Hud actually made it to where he flew back to Pittsburgh with me, and he was right next to me on the plane. So then we touched down in Pittsburgh. My dad's picking me up. Hud and my dad want to talk, so we go to this place that serves chicken wings near the airport and stuff like that. And so we have a lunch or something. And the last thing that Coach Hud said to me was, at any time, you call me and you tell me if you're a Husky. So, whatever. Next day, Richmond comes to my school. Richmond says, "What do you want to do?" I basically go, "I don't want to go to Richmond." And he goes, "Okay, thank you very much." Blah, blah, blah. So now it's UConn. So then I told my dad this, and my dad goes, "Well, then go call Coach Hud." Now, I told my dad this at like 11:45 on a Wednesday, like night. And he goes, "Call him." And I go, "Well, it's 11:45 at night." He goes, "He said anytime. Call him." So this is before cell phones. This is before anything. Yeah. So I had to call like the days in like near the airport, ask for Greg Hudson. He wasn't in yet. So I said, "Well, call him back. I'll be up for another like 15, 20 minutes. 3 minutes later, he calls me on the phone, on my house phone, and he sits there. He's like, "Michael, what's going on?" And I go, "Oh, nothing much, Coach. I just wanted to tell you that I'm a Husky." And he sat there and goes, "Say that again." And I go, "I just wanted to tell you that I'm a Husky." And he goes, "Is your dad in the room?" And I go, "Yes." He goes, "Scream it loud enough so he can hear it." And I go, "Dad, I'm a Husky." And he sits there and goes, "Oh, you made my night. You made a 40-year decision." And that was how I committed to UConn.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. And your class was so special. And I know they wanted to redshirt everyone as well. And I remember it was it may have been Carl Bond who didn't get redshirted.
Okay, so Bond was in the class before me.
It was before you. Okay,
so
maybe it was
Carl Bond, Shane Stafford, Dennis, Chili were all in the class. I was in the class with Torrey Taylor, Percy Price, Burton, Ritter, Harper. That was kind of Chucky Mears, Steve Bowman, Mike Bendekovic, who eventually, a lot of great players. No, and I actually played my freshman year.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so and then my sophomore year is when I broke my leg, which is why I was still eligible to play in 99.
Right. And I remember, was it the conditioning test you broke your leg on?
Yes, it was the conditioning test. I literally, it was in the old, the field hockey turf. I planted my foot and I turned and the foot stayed and just went like that. And the foot was just kind of like, I still have the rod in my leg. Yeah, I still got it in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you want to talk about like, I went into the hospital and they would not give me a straight answer of whether I was ever going to play football again.
Because they didn't know. They
didn't know if I was going to, if it was going to infect it, if it was whatever. And that was, it took obviously I was able to participate in spring from there. But that was, that was a tough one.
Who ended up doing the surgery? Did one of the UConn guys do the surgery?
Like one of the doctors at Tallinn Hospital. I don't know. Okay. One of the UConn guys was there.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I don't know. I was knocked out. I didn't know who the hell was there. I just woke up and I was just kind of like, I went to sleep. I woke up. I was half naked under a blanket and I had a cut in my leg. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah. I know what that's like. Okay, so that's right. So you played as a freshman.
Yeah.
And is that primarily when you were at guard?
No, I was a tackle. Okay. So I got redshirted my sophomore year, and I was a tackle all the way through until sophomore year when I was coming back off the broken leg, and we still had like some tackles, and so again it's find your best five, and then they put me at center. So then my sophomore year, I started for a good amount of the games at center.
Because I remember like you ended up starting 33 or 36 games. Like you had a big number of starts, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And like you said, you played as a true freshman, which is so difficult to do as a lineman. So that must have been hell rehabbing that injury. And when exactly did Hudson end up leaving?
Right after my sophomore year, the year I broke my leg. Yeah, he went to Cincinnati, where he coached actually with Mike Tomlin. So little tidbit there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, him and Tomlin were like it was there were some articles about them like being very, very close and stuff like that. But that's when Googs came in. So like literally Googs just showed up and
BU,
we knew he was from BU and everything like that. And they're like, "Oh yeah, and these are your linemen," and "Oh yeah, he's coming back from a broken leg."
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah, and he had a very, very thick accent and colorful language, because I remember when he recruited me too. I just was blown away by him because he always had a dip in, and I don't think he spoke a word without a curse word behind it or before it. I'm pretty sure.
He was such a. When I became a high school football coach, I would say 90% of what I taught the kids I learned from Coach Googs.
From him, yes.
Yeah, he was so technically sound, taught you so much about offensive line, about the mental aspect and the technique aspect of it. And yeah, he was a character. I mean, I mean, some of the things that he said in meetings and said to all of us, it literally would not be allowed on the internet. Like, think about what is allowed on the internet. The things that he said in meetings would not be allowed on the internet. They would shut down the internet if I actually told you some of the things he said.
I remember because when I was getting recruited, I came to the UConn UMass game at UConn, and then I was recruited by UMass. I went to UConn at UMass, and he ended up talking and spending more time with me than the UMass coaches did, which I thought was.
Tell you a funny Goog story about recruiting. One time I was hosting a kid, and so we're at dinner, and it's like the Friday dinner where we meet each other, and Googs goes, "Sad, come here. Come here.
With the dip in,
yeah. I don't want him." Like, what? He goes, "The guy you're hosting, I don't want him.
Make sure he doesn't commit.
And I go, make sure he doesn't want to come here.
Make sure he has a horrible visit."
like what? He goes, "Yeah, I don't want him." But the funny thing was, you know how sometimes you pair up with kids? He paired up with the guy they really wanted.
Yeah.
So he had a great time because he was with the kid they didn't want it. So it was like,
that's
like
hilarious.
I would literally like sit there and be like in meetings, like, "So tell me about Coach Holtz." I'm like, he's kind of a dick. He's you don't want to play for him. He goes, "Well, what do you guys do around here?" "Nothing. There's no bars. There's nothing here. Girls are ugly. Yeah, you don't want to come here." Where are you looking at? "Oh, yeah, Delaware? I heard Delaware's amazing. Yeah, you should go there. That'd be great." But yeah, you want to talk about hosting a kid for two days, having to spend your life, and Googs just first thing he says is, "I don't want him."
That's all he tells you. I don't want him.
I don't want him. Make it that he doesn't want to come here. Like, does he want me to leave him on the side of the road? I mean, what does he want? Yeah. So you want me to just drive him to New Haven, drop him off, and just leave like he's a puppy dog? I don't know what the hell he wants. But yeah, that was Googs. That was there.
Oh my god. That reminds me, because if you remember Ed and J Chuck, Ed was the go-to guy for any recruit they wanted, because Ed had like he batted 1,000% on recruiting visits. Anyone that he hosted committed.
Yeah.
So they would always send people with him. In the 4 years I was there, I was the only person never to host. They never.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't give anybody use.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd lose them, or keep the money for yourself, or just leave them in your room and just walk away. Like, I could imagine you just being a horrific host.
I would have been. I would have been a horrible host, and I used to hate weekends when we had kids up too.
I loved it because, again, I had no money, so it was like we always ate well.
That's right.
You sit there and be like, "Hey, you're going to eat a prime rib dinner," and again, I'm a natural salesman and I like to talk, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll get this kid. I like him. Let's go for it."
Yeah,
if you feed me, I'll because also they give you money.
Yeah,
they got like some money for him, so then
or whatever, to take them out. And I remember, like, for me, like, they took me to Subway so Harper could pocket the rest of the money. So
we weren't dummies. We knew what the hell to do.
No, you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. That's right. Now, where you were there, because I remember I talked to Carl Bond, and he had said that when Skip first got there, he tried to run like the Notre Dame option, and it was just a disaster.
He did. Even when we were there, he tried to run it.
Okay. And he said
we ran it 68. Yeah, the option play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, because if you could run it well, it forces teams to play assignment football, and it's something that, but you need Tony Rice.
He put Wilbur at fullback. That's what Wilbur had told me. He's like,
he wanted to make him Jerome Bettis. Yeah.
He's like, I was like the leading rusher in UConn history for a while, and he puts me at fullback my senior year.
One of the things that people forget about Skip was, like, at that moment, like how Alabama has been the program for the last 10 or 15 years. When UConn got Skip, that was getting the coach from the program. Like Notre Dame in the late 80s, early 90s was the program. They had their own NBC thing. So, and that was before like cable took over and all that kind of stuff. So it was that's one of the things that always bothers me about Connecticut football is like like when they got Bob Diaco, there were actual people that write for the papers in Connecticut. They're like, can you imagine that UConn got a Notre Dame assistant? And we're like, we got the offensive coordinator in 1994, you morons.
I thought that Skip came from Florida State. He was
at Florida State. He was a GA at Florida State. He was a GA at Florida State. Then he went to Colorado State, where he met, where he was actually big on Urban Meyer. That's where he met Urban Meyer, and that's how they got very close. And then he went back to Notre Dame
as the OC.
He was the offensive coordinator there. And then he was, like you talk about, Randy was 39. Skip was 29 or 28 when he became the coach at UConn.
Oh, my God. I didn't know he was that young.
Yeah, wow. He was incredible. I look back on that because, again, he's your head coach. You don't really know. Yeah, he was like in his late 20s, early 30s when he became our coach.
Wow. He must have, I mean, obviously with the name Holtz and coming from Notre Dame and being the offensive coordinator, that was huge. And I remember Randy said that he was very, very bitter because he didn't get the BC head job when Coughlin left, and he had been there for a while. And the reason why was because he didn't have any coordinator experience, and that was the knock on him. So he goes to Coughlin, to Jacksonville, and then he ended up at Georgia Tech, and he was only a coordinator for 1 year. And that's when he got the UConn job, but he had never been a coordinator before that.
It's very difficult to go to get a big job like BC if you've never, because when you're a coordinator, you're the head coach of something.
Exactly.
Whereas when you're a position coach, you're just kind of responsible for your guys. And so if you're going up to an AD, you have to show them that you can organize something. So yeah, it's always, and nowadays it's if you're an offensive guy, if you coach quarterbacks, then you're good as gold.
Yeah, if you're a quarterback guru, they'll take you regardless. That's all they care about. Doesn't matter if you have coordinator. Because I was always blown away by Eric Bieniemy. He was the OC for the Chiefs for the Super Bowl championships. I know Andy Reid called the plays, but he was still like the OC, and he interviewed for like 13 head coaching jobs, and he didn't get one of them. And I couldn't understand why. And I'm like, could this guy just?
I think because what people say is that because Andy Reid was more of the offensive mind, he really wasn't the offensive coordinator.
Right.
Which is why speak about Los Angeles. He's down the street at UCLA now. He's the OC there.
Oh, so, he is. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what they're trying to. He has to prove that he can call plays and coordinate. And if he could turn, UCLA's actually had a good couple of weeks and beat Iowa last week. And so if they can end strong, he'd be in a nice position.
Yes, that's true. So I think your junior year was 98, correct? Or 90,
well, we're talking, so it was basically 95 was my true freshman year when I played. 96 would have been the year I broke my leg. 97, we were 7-4. And basically we were good, but we lost the last game to UNH and would have put us in the playoffs. And then 98 was the year that we went to the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And then 99 was Randy's first year.
And 98 or 97 when Skip kind of changed the offense and opened it up more to like 11 personnel and, ran the ball more and spread it out a little bit more?
I mean, there was never a wholesale change.
But
it was always, I mean, we always had good fullbacks. We'd always,
Chad
so I mean, if you watch us, it really took to probably, we always ran power. We always ran ice, but I think we really started to kind of implement a little bit more of that. Probably it was a little bit of a tinge in 97, but 98, if you watch like 98 film, we're starting to get into 2-point stances and run four wide receivers.
I saw like 11 personnel. I thought 11 personnel was the base. And then he would go to 21. Okay, it wasn't. Oh, okay. So he
maybe not until later in the year, but we never. I mean, we consistently played, tight end, fullback, I formation split.
21. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on third down, we might pull the fullback and do something. We were what would best be described as pro style multiple.
You were pro style multiple. Okay. Because I know you had great running backs. You had RC and you had Barry Chandler, both very, very good, tough runners. And
Tabor eventually. Yeah. I mean, we had some good, and then great fullbacks, Vezchek and Chad Martin and obviously Burton in 98 was a tight end, Dan Deegan and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the key to that 98 team was Shane and our quarterbacks and our wide receivers. They were special. They were really, really great.
I do a podcast with Shane, and I love having him on because of just the way he thinks and the way he sees things. And it's just amazing the mind that he has for football.
I mean, if you were to put if you were saying the top 5 UConn quarterbacks of all time, he's in the. Yeah. I think. I mean, obviously you have the Orlovsky's kind of at that level because of his there, but I would put him easily 2 or 3. I mean, especially. I mean, he just having him back there. He was such a great leader, and you just felt like you were all. I never saw him get frazzled. Yeah, I never saw him make a mistake. I mean, towards the end of his career, he was correcting Skip. Yeah, in terms of it was Skip's offense. Yeah, but he would be the one calling a play and be like, "Coach, you have to call the tight end to the other side in order to do that." Right, so that's the kind of expertise he had about that offense. But then even in you want to talk about 98 having. I mean, Shane got hurt because of a guy that I was supposed to be blocking.
Hoff stepped in.
Yeah, Hoff, and then threw for 400 and something yards against UMass.
I was there.
And then he got hurt, which that's an interesting story.
I forgot about that.
He had a concussion.
And the UMass game.
Did Hoffman ever tell you that story about his concussion?
No, I don't remember that. No.
So okay, basically, so he's killing it. He's absolutely throwing it. I mean, and Brian was mobile, he could move, he was really, really good. But he got dinged in the head, and the thing that happened was during the week, the coaches changed from a hot color to a hot direction. So we went from going black 34 to north 34. Yeah. So he gets under center and he goes black 34, and all the linemen look back to him and go, "It's a direction."
It's not.
And he sits there and goes, "No, it's not. It's black 30." And we're like, "No, it's a direction." So you watch it on film. It does look like we're not arguing. We're oh my God, these guys are communicating like they're NFL time. We're just sitting there going no, dude, you're not there. And then eventually, he threw, you talk about Googs. Hoff made this amazing throw in the game to Chad, and it was almost picked, but he threw it right there. And Googs in the film runs back the play, goes, "This is when we knew he was concussed. The ball is never supposed to go there." That's when we knew something was wrong, because that's not in the read progression. He's not supposed to throw the damn ball there.
He threw the guy that was not even in the read.
Yeah, not even in the read scheme, and it went.
Oh my God.
But that's when we were like, all right, something's there. And then Luke Richmond got in, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Luke, it was against Rhode Island. And so it was a homecoming crowd, big crowd, all this kind of stuff. Luke comes in. They assume that we're going to run the ball because we got a young quarterback in. Instead, we call a deep ball. We call play action over the top to Carl, I think. Goes over the top. But the thing is, he threw the ball, and I think he slipped or someone hit him. Then later in the game, he hands the ball off for a run, for a long run. He slips and falls down. Then on a goal line, he hands the ball off. We score a touchdown. He slips and falls down. So Goog sits there and says, he has to slip and fall down. That's his thing. You can't mess with your thing, kid. You gotta. If you fall down, we score a touchdown. Fall the hell down. What are you doing here?
I didn't know that. So he started the whole game?
No, Luke came in later in the game.
I mean, the Rhode Island game.
Yeah.
Okay. So
he threw a touchdown on his first play as a starter. Because everybody they're playing 12 guys in the box because they're going to run the ball here, and they just threw it on the top.
So Hoffman finished the UMass game completely concussed, and Luke did Hoffman play in the Rhode Island game, and then Luke came in? Okay.
Yes.
So they figured Hoff was out of it, and they put Luke in.
So this was 1998. So the next week he was back against Northeastern.
Yeah, there was no concussion protocol.
It was just you feel good? Yeah, all right, you're in.
You're fine. You're good to go. Wow, yeah. I didn't know he played that. Because did Shane miss 3 games in 98?
I believe so. Yeah,
it was 3. Because I was looking at his numbers, and he had 25 touchdowns or whatever, and he always said that if he were able to play in the games he missed, he would have thrown 30 touchdowns. And Joe D'Ambrosio, we do a show with him, and he says Shane Stafford, hands down, is the best quarterback in UConn history. That's who he believes is.
Even better than
Thunder Dan? Yes. Yeah. He's not my boy, but yes, he's better than Thunder Dan. Just because Thunder Dan's on ESPN, he's not my boy. But Thunder Dan obviously was special, and without him coming to UConn, I don't know that we have the success that we did those last couple of years. But that 98 team, I mean, you guys really could do it all. You ran the ball well, and I thought it was the first time Skip really had a running back by committee with Reed Colin and Barry and Tabor in there. You had Torrey Taylor and you had Shank. Dagden and Burton was there.
Well, don't forget, and John Fitzsimmons was incredible as well.
And Fitzy, yep. And the other guy that got
Murray Clayton, it was a great. I mean, we had we had some great skill guys. If you want to talk about motivation in one of those games, if you'd have said, Mike, what was your motivation going into any one of those games? I knew that if I just did my 111th, we were going to put up 40.
Yeah.
And you did. I didn't have to do anything beyond just, I got to block that guy. Because I know if I block this guy, Shane's going to find the right guy. The wide receiver is going to get open. We're going to move the ball. It was just such a calmness. Because no matter what happened on the field, we knew we were going to score.
You knew we were the better team.
We knew we were going to just if someone said to us if we saw that, they scored, great, we're going to score. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I remember I interviewed Bond, I interviewed Torrey Taylor, Murray Clayton, and maybe one other guy, Rennell Jumper, Ron Campbell. They said that the difference was that summer, 99% of the team stayed on campus and trained. And he felt that you guys got closer personally. You became better friends, and you held each other accountable, and you just worked your ass off and trained as hard as possible in the weight room. And he felt like going into the Berkshires, I think it was Shank that told me the story that Skip came into the first team meeting and he wrote on a sheet of paper, either it was win the conference or win the national championship, and then left. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what I was told.
Sounds like something you would do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an experienced team. It was a team that had experienced a lot together. We had pretty much come in together. We had all played. We had all had some success, but had come a little bit short. And so it just was time. We were a very mature team.
Yeah, you were.
We knew exactly what we needed to do. We never got too high, never got too low. It was legitimately
and you had a great coaching staff too, with Fitch and Rapone. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was the culmination of 4 years of work to get to that team. And I still think often about it was the best year of football I ever had. It was the most fun I ever had. It was just a really, really great year.
Best team in UConn history. And I never even thought about it. Like Rapone is in the NFL. Bevel was a head coach in the NFL, still in the NFL. And then Skip
and Fitch is like I think LSU, or he was at Ohio State. I mean, it was, I mean, it
amazing.
We had some great coaches there that went on to still be in the NFL and coach in major college and all that kind of stuff. We were very, very lucky with that.
Was Mike Golden the strength coach in 97 or did he come in 98?
No, 98. 97 was another guy who escapes me who eventually went to Notre Dame.
Okay.
But Golden was 98 and 99.
And Golden was off his rocker. I always thought Golden was nuts.
Well, strength coaches just have to be nuts.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah, if you mean a sane strength coach, go lift tennis. Like, no, if you're gonna lift large men to lift obscene amounts of weight, turn on the rap music or the heavy metal and let's get the chalk going and let's just start squatting. Let's get it over. Let's get it going. This is not a good weight room. Should scare the shit out of somebody. When you walk into a good weight room, a good football weight room, you should be scared for your life. That's if you're a normal human being and walk into a college weight room and you're just like, oh, this seems to be a wonderful, clean place. No,
it's like
you should be scared to death. It should be unbelievably intimidating to walk into a successful team. It should be screaming. You should think that the music should be too loud that you can't hear. It should be just a cauldron of testosterone and intensity. It should be insane.
And it was. I was scared to death when I walked in that weight room and I saw you guys.
Since it was the smallest weight room you could have possibly had.
Tiny. The blue.
It was tiny. Like I always love when college coaches talk about their giant weight rooms, and I'm just like, you need a bench, you need a bar, you need weights, and you need some Guns N' Roses. You're good. You don't need anything else.
Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue. That's right. Yeah. I remember just seeing Ron Gamble and Chad Cook and just being scared to death. I'm like, there's no way I could. What am I going to do to these guys? Like they were just monsters. And then Rennell Jump, just monster. And they were just so powerful up front. Ryan Timko, you guys were so good up front both ways. And, it's always disappointing to me because that 98 team was special. The Hampton game, you won a playoff game, the only team ever to win a playoff game. And it was Jamar Wilkins when I interviewed him. He felt that going into Georgia Southern, they changed the entire defensive scheme because to stop that option. And he's always felt, even to this day, that if they played their stuff, their style, their same defense, that they would have at least been more successful and had a better chance of beating Georgia Southern. And I know it was also hot, but what was your opinion?
It was really hot. It was 93 degrees in December, and that was not fun. It was just a game that I just remember. It was like a Madden game when you're playing against someone and you're just score. And then I remember, and you can talk to Shane about this play. I think we ran like a 28 naked deep. That was like a play action to like an outside like run play. Shane would pull up and throw over the top. And I remember you thinking every time we called 28 naked deep, that this play would be to Carl or to Tori, and it would just be out, it'd be gone. And for some reason, it didn't hit, and because of that, we had to punt, and so we just couldn't keep the
scoring
going. And Yeah, and then it's sad to think that a couple weeks later, because UMass got to play them in Chattanooga in a rainstorm when it was now 55 degrees. Now Georgia Southern had to play in the environment they weren't used to, and all that kind of stuff that they get to walk around as national champions, even though we beat them twice.
Yeah. And do you think that you would have beaten UMass for a third time, hypothetically?
We would have beaten them for a fifth time.
I think so too.
I went up to Mark Whipple eventually became the coach for the Steelers, or one of the coaches for the Steelers.
Yes.
And his son played for Pine Richland when my brother coached Pine Richland, and I went up to him. I went up to Mark Whipple, and I sat there and went, "Hi, Mike Sasson. I don't know if you remember me. I played at UConn." And he kind of went like, "Oh, it's a long time ago." And I go, "I remember. We beat you twice." And he looked at me, and he was just kind of like so disgusted that I had to bring that up. But I just go, "Hey, great meeting you."
Yeah,
we beat you twice. We'd have beaten you We'd have beaten you 12 times. If the whole schedule was UMass, we'd have been undefeated.
You would have beaten them. Yeah, and that was when they had Marcel Shipp too, and they were really good.
I don't care. He sucked. We'd have won.
You would have.
I have 90 Marcel Shipps. We were better than they were.
It was UMass. Who were the other two losses to?
Delaware, and then Georgia Southern. Delaware was the game where, I don't know if anyone ever told you this story. We lost that game pretty badly. Nagy, who eventually became the coach of the Bears, was their quarterback, and he threw for 500 yards or something ridiculous. And I think that game is the game that actually made Rapone very concerned about Georgia Southern, because Delaware played a very similar offense with the option and stuff like that.
Yeah, they ran that wing tee. That's right.
Yeah. And then eventually,
Georgia Southern,
Delaware. Played. So we lost to Delaware, and a commentator from the Hartford Courant wrote that UConn will never go to the playoffs.
Okay.
And I will wear a dunce cap around UConn's facility if UConn makes the playoffs. And we had to play multiple road games, including one at UMass and one at William & Mary. And William & Mary had beaten Temple that year.
Yes.
So they were a really good team. And you want to talk about probably the biggest game of that 98 year that kind of set us apart was going down south to Virginia and beating William & Mary at William & Mary. That was the game that really kind of set us up to have that great year. And then the UMass game was the game where everything flipped, because we'd always been an offensive team, and our offense actually struggled in that game. And that's where our defense stepped up and had multiple defensive touchdowns, and we got a special teams touchdown, and we won that game.
Yeah. And who was the third loss to? Because you said Georgia Southern, you said Delaware.
And then Georgia Southern, Delaware, and New Hampshire.
Oh, UNH. Okay, UNH you lost to.
Yeah, we lost to Jerry Azuma, who I think had 49 carries.
I heard
that's the only game where, because again, UNH's facilities were so awful that we played on a literally a high school stadium that someone in Western Pennsylvania would be embarrassed about.
It was. That's right.
And the guy, because we're so up in the hills, kicked a kickoff that went into the air, and the wind blew it back to them, so that we never got the ball again. You want to talk about a game where we're sitting on the sidelines, looking at each other, going, "Hey, anybody got a newspaper?" We're not able to get on the field.
The better team. It was just the weather and
Jerry Azuma, just every time he touched the ball, was just hit 3 yards.
Yeah,
4 yards.
He was player of the
3 yards.
Yeah. He was
4
amazing.
yards. 3 yards. 4 yards. So, again, we never just got the ball. And then Dan Kreider was his fullback who played for the Steelers.
Yes.
So, it wasn't like our defense was bad. It just literally Jerry Azuma would find a way to squeeze out and get 3-4 yards. There's a reason why guy went to the Pro Bowl in the NFL.
Yeah, he played DB too. That's right. So the 98 season was special. You won. Now, when Skip recruited you, because Carl Bond told me this, Carl Bond said that he promised that he would be there for all 4 years or all 5 years. Guaranteed.
No.
Did he tell you? Okay, so he did not tell you that.
No, he did not tell me that.
Were you worried at all, each year, that he may leave? Were there rumblings or not really?
There were rumblings every year. I know that, apparently, after the 95 season, Rutgers was interested. It's in the back of your mind, but you're a kid at that point, and you're just kind of
not thinking about
someone to be my coach, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just a kid. You don't know what's going on.
Well, that's what was always disappointing, because I know Randy came in and everyone tells me the story where the first team meeting he has, he's taking your rings and he's just throwing them at you. Here you go. Oh, you're champions. This doesn't mean anything. Here you go. Take it. I thought that was like his. How do you do that?
I mean, the thing about Randy, is the fact that he knew that he wasn't going to be evaluated based upon that team.
Right.
So he made decisions to help him for when he was going to be evaluated, which was 3 or 4 years from now. And as someone who is now, a grown man, you're kind of like, I mean, obviously being part of being the team that, that was the year after the team happened.
I know.
And, was kind of a little bit of a letdown, but I get it. I mean, so it's one of those things to where you're now a grown man and you're like, if he was at a bar or whatever, and he goes, hey, I had to do this because, I had to make this decision because I have to build a culture and build my team and all this kind of stuff. I'd be like, oh, I get that.
He admittedly, when I was shocked that, like, he was very, very honest when I talked to him on the podcast, and he said he felt like he had to come in and be Tom Coughlin. Like that's what he knew. And he felt like he had to set the tone because he was young and it was his first head coaching job. And he thought like people would try to take advantage of that and people would try to get over on him. But I thought he took it too far with the upperclassmen, because that team still had plenty of talent. That team still could have won the A10 or at least competed. I always believed that. I always believed, we had enough to win more than 4 games. I mean, at least 7-4.
But I mean, fundamentally, I get it. I mean, again, if he would have said, hey, I was a 39-year-old coach, I'm coming into a situation, I have to, set the tempo, I get it. And then what's funny is the fact that when he went to Maryland, he tried to do the same thing.
He did. He ran everyone out.
and the funny thing was like everybody was like, he literally took over the same situation. Yeah. They had won 10 games or 9 games the year before, but they weren't happy with Ralph Region. And so he comes in and legitimately tries to do the same thing. And so, he had a game plan. And I have to, admit it, he did what he's supposed to do. He built a 1A program that ultimately could compete against teams that had more tradition by the time that he was being evaluated in 03 and 04 and 05 and all that kind of stuff. So,
he did. He did. I mean, we played a lot earlier than he wanted. He got the redshirt most of his guys, but we definitely got our asses kicked. We finally put it together in like 02. And I think it was like from 02 to 2010 were the best years, when
I remember the 02 season, which is it was almost like
you were at a home, you were a couple home games. I remember seeing you there.
I remember I remember one year that I think it was the year that you actually competed against Vanderbilt. And so that was a big deal because that was an SEC team. Yes. And then you just rattled off some wins. And then obviously the big shock that went throughout the country was beating Iowa State the year that Iowa State had beaten Nebraska earlier that year. And that was kind of the game that kind of was the springboard for that great year in 2003 with the opening of Rentschler Field and all that other kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
I mean, it's one of those things to where, I mean, did we all as seniors have to sacrifice 99 to get 2003?
And he didn't bring guys back. Like there were plenty of 50-year guys he could have brought back that he didn't, which I thought was terrible. And guys that could have helped, guys that we needed. And
because he was sitting there going, I could bring back a 5th-year guy, or I could bring in a young high school kid that could help me in 2004 and 2005. And that's what he did. And it's funny because I've often thought about, Randy, and again, being now having experience and being a grown up, is like your greatest strength can become your greatest weakness in when you have too much of it. And I think that's what ultimately happened the second time. Is he was such a disciplinarian and such a, hey, this is my way or the highway, when then NIL and the transfer portal shows up and these kids are like, I don't have to stay here. I can go to any school I want. I don't even have to tell you about it. I can be out of here. Yeah. It just wasn't, it wasn't his time. Work.
No,
but in 2002 and 1999, 2001, 2002, all this kind of stuff, when you were stuck there, yeah, absolutely it worked. So I give him all the credit in the world for doing something that a lot of people thought was going to be really, really hard, which was put together a really good 1A team at the University of Connecticut.
What were your thoughts on Norris? Because Norris was more of an offensive coordinator than like a true line coach, like as far as technique wise, like as far as the difference in coaching styles, you would say from him to Gooch.
Well, I mean, I think Norris obviously had success and did his thing, but I mean, you compare him to Coach Googs. I mean, Coach Googs is, there's a reason why the guy has multiple Super Bowl rings. I mean, the guy was a special offensive line coach and a special, thing. So you follow that up, and it wasn't like that Norris was bad.
No, they were
just
different.
That we had just had one of the best.
Yeah.
And now you're good, but we had one of the best. And so we were kind of like, we almost would be like, you're taking a false step there. You're doing this. Like we were more technique oriented sometimes than he was, because we were so trained in terms of how you do it. So he would be just like, yeah, good, go block this guy. And we'd be like, well, you have to take this step and do this and blah, 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 because that's how we had been trained.
That's right. We didn't do that. We didn't do that at all. Did he go to South Carolina? I can't remember.
Yes, he followed Skip and went to South Carolina with him.
And then he ended up in the NFL. He was with the Pats. He was with the Giants. He had a great NFL career.
Miami, the Colts. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember was it him that got in a fight with the O-line coach with the Giants a couple years ago? Or somebody got in a fight with the line coach with the Giants, and then he ended up taking over again. I thought that was hilarious because the line.
Like I don't remember that, but it's not like it would be out of character. Yeah, that sounds like something he'd do.
It was the line coach. I remember he was from BC, and we actually played against him. But I remember that. So do you keep in contact with any of those coaches? Did like Googe or Rapone or
when Fitz? I called Rapone when my brother was being recruited. And eventually went to Youngstown State, and I talked to him for a couple minutes. HUD reached out to me when I was hosting one of my shows and wanted to, tell me some dirt on Urban Meyer. But great. Yeah, I mean, not really.
Okay. So like, I don't remember. Were you a communications major at UConn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you know that
I was an eligibility major. Let's just say that.
We used to say majored in graduation. We just majored. I was a Soc major. We majored in graduation.
Oh, you definitely majored in Soc.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You majored in graduation. You majored in eligibility.
Yeah, that's right. Did you always know that you wanted to work in media and be on the air and be a personality? Because you always had that, but like you were always like, I always go back. You were a great leader. Like with me, you and Harper, Burton, and Durfus.
Well, one of the things that helped in terms of my development with you guys was I was suspended, so I didn't need to
bring that up. But yeah,
I needed to do something to help. So
but you did, but like that made a difference. Like I always tell people that if it wasn't for you guys, like I had a really rough freshman year. And it was you, and it was Jamie, and it was Burton. Like you guys took such good care of me and always made sure I was okay and always checked on me. And that was the reason I got through that year was because
I mean, and again, going back to the whole, I mean, I was suspended my senior year because of something that was stupid that I did, which I take full responsibility, and I feel bad that, all that kind of stuff. If anybody's watching it and don't know what happened, it was silly. No one got hurt.
6 games was a little much. 6 games was a little much.
Again,
Maybe half.
I mean, again, going back to as a grown man, if Randy was like, I had to do it because of X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, okay, I get it.
I wouldn't get 6 games, like maybe 2.
If it was 2 games, if it was 1 game, it was then whatever.
There's no domestic violence. Like
no, I didn't hit anybody. I didn't do anything.
Didn't get arrested. Like I mean, you didn't get. I don't think you got charged. Like, did you get charged?
I got a glorified parking ticket.
Yeah, that was it. That's what blows my mind in the 6 games. But no, I like.
But ultimately, and I'll be completely forthright with that. As now a 48-year-old man who's now in the entertainment industry.
You don't have to say 48. You can say you're 40. You look 40.
Well, look how good I am. Jeez, look, it's beautiful.
You do look great. You do look great.
It's honestly, there. Not to rag some of my teammates. Some of you guys didn't age as well.
No, we let ourselves go.
Look at me, for God's sakes. It's freaking you should all be jealous.
I throw one in you, to be honest with you. I'll throw one in you. I throw one in you, if that makes you feel better.
Well, it doesn't, but thank you for sharing. But to now, it's just, again, you do have to learn that you have consequences for your actions.
Accountability.
That's part of being an adult.
Yeah.
And whether it was 6 games, whether it was 2 games, whether it was 4 games, whether it was whatever, I still got to graduate.
Yeah.
I appreciate that Randy still brought me back, because he could have easily just said, no, you're not coming back, or, because fundamentally I wasn't going to help him win a game in 2004, 2005. I was a senior anyway. So I do appreciate that.
And you started.
Yeah, I did come back and start, and I got to finish with my brothers, which makes me feel very, very good. But, part of what I wanted to do was help the young guys, because I knew that you would be there when, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a positive and help guys like you, because in 4 years, you're going to be, the legacy. And that's one of the things about a program. Someone explained to me once, he goes, when this, next Saturday when UConn plays Syracuse, there's a little bit of you out there, because somewhere in the way one of those guys takes a stance, one of the ways that guy attacks a linebacker, one of those somewhere, is Steve, is Mike Sasson, is Jamie Harper, somewhere in there. It's might be a speck of dust, but you don't know it's there. And that's by helping you, and you help somebody else, and you.
I didn't help anyone. You helped me. I was terrible.
Even you not helping helped someone go, you know what? I'm not going to be that asshole. So just you have no idea how much you helped.
You're right.
Yeah. You're like, the last guy I'm going to be is that son of a bitch. So yeah, you absolutely helped.
But it's okay, so that makes sense, because you guys just were so great with Ed and myself, and Big O, the freshman in the room, and you didn't have to. And I thought that really made a difference, because one
of the things that I'm proud of, and one of the things that I can say this is I can't think of a guy that I played with that was a jerk. We had some good dudes.
Oh, we had a good group.
We had some good guys. We had some, the names that you mentioned,
Hustle, Darby, Campoli,
all great guys. All great guys, and all you see it in them today, and all the different things we've done, and different places we've been. We're all still with us. We're all still doing it. We're all still achieving great things. So yeah, really proud to be part of that group.
And did you want to get into media? Was that your goal? You wanted to have a show, or you wanted to?
Well, for most of my 20s, I really didn't start doing it until my 30s, because I just didn't think it was possible. Okay. And then when I kind of stumbled into it and then had a way to do it, and I went back to school, ironically, I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
I heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, and literally, I did some training there, and from there got some internships. I worked with ESPN in Pittsburgh, and went and interviewed the Steelers and the Penguins and the Pirates and all that kind of stuff. And
was that a 2-year program?
Yes and no. Eventually the school folded. So it's funny. I actually did a payment plan, but I never actually paid for it because the school went belly up before I started the payment plan. So I actually went for pretty much close to free, which means I got my college for free and then the other thing for free. So living a blessed life.
So that's how you started.
And then it just, everything built on that. And then when the fan ended, I just wanted to do something that no one could ever fire you from. So that's where stand-up started. And that's what I've been doing for the past 12 years, in different places all over the country. And if you're in Southern California, I'll be in Hollywood tomorrow. I'll be at the Comedy Chateau on Saturday, and I'll be in San Diego at the La Jolla Comedy Store. So
do you book yourself out all week, or is it really Thursday through Saturday?
I show up when people say, "Here's money, go talk."
Here's money, go talk. And do you usually do one show, or do you do two shows? Like, I know,
here's money, go talk. Here's money, go talk. If two people want me to go, here's money, go talk, then two people get here, money, go talk.
Well, the only reason I asked, our comedy club here does Friday and Saturday night shows, so they do one show Friday night.
Pretty standard.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's what you would do. And your love of sports obviously helped, and your personality and your outgoingness. And for someone who is new to the podcast world, and for someone who's done it for a while and had success with it, what would you give me for advice or tips?
Make sure everybody can hear you.
Yeah.
Make sure the quality is good. Yes. Make sure that you definitely are good at making sure. We got a little off a couple tangents here, and I think we're at about an hour and 40 minutes, and I checked everybody else's. We're like an hour. I don't know if you're going to edit this. Who knows?
I love you. I wanted to talk to you, so of course I kept you up. I know it's been. Yeah, I got you.
Kept you up. It's only 8:41 for me. I don't know what time it is for you. I don't know.
That's right. It's midnight for me. Yeah, it's a CTE again. Sorry.
Yeah, I got to remind you about time zones again. Yes. But just be interesting and and have a niche, which is why it's cool. I mean, it's Husky Talk. It's for UConn fans. It's for all those type of things. And I mean, I almost view this as like how when before the World War II vets died, they asked them about their experiences in war. And so you're just interviewing players from the mid to late 90s before the 1A, before we all start keeling over. So when they do like a time capsule, they're like, what was UConn football like, before we had good facilities and we're on TV? We have documentation of what it was like.
I tried to start interviewing the younger guys. I've gotten a couple of them. I got Jeremy Davis, who got a Super Bowl ring with the Bucks, and I got Andrew Adams got a Super Bowl ring with the Bucks, defensive back. Jeremy Davis, wide receiver, played for the Giants. David Pindell, quarterback for Randy, plays in Japan now. I've been trying to get some of the newer guys, but you're absolutely right. But no, I watch your stuff. I think you're great. I think you're hilarious, and your routine, obviously, I mean, working on material, the time that you have to put in, I mean, you're used to that discipline from football, from the meetings.
There's nothing closer to football than stand-up comedy. You think about your set is your game plan, and very similar to a football game, once the ball is kicked off, you have no clue what's about to happen, but you just have to rely on your training and your practice and all that kind of good stuff. And sometimes you win the game 55-0. Sometimes you win the game close in the fourth quarter. Sometimes it's raining, or sometimes there's a drunk who won't shut up. There's always obstacles in your way, and football is a great training ground for that.
Are you good at picking on the audience at all? Because I always love when people do that.
If they stay quiet, they don't get hit. If someone says something, then typically they will be, all of their foibles will be made to for our amusement.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been incredible, very entertaining. I loved having you on. I do 10 million shows if you get a chance to listen to any of them, I would love your feedback. Anything that you think I can improve on and do better, I would love that, because we're trying to make a career out of it. I work with David Schuman, if you remember him. I partner with him, and his YouTube channel has 1 million followers. So he was kind enough to post my content on there, which has helped build my viewership. And then we're trying to get some bigger sponsors. We got a marketing agency. We're trying. We're almost there. So
you're dealing with the future. I mean, the old school radio and all that other kind of stuff. That's not. It's going away. And definitely, I mean, you're developing an audience. UConn is a big brand, and you can make a good living if you just kind of stick to that. So, I mean, you find that niche and kind of go from there. And, obviously, if you need anything, you let me know. If you're ever out on the West Coast, you let me know, and we'll go from there.
I will. And I'm definitely going to try to get you booked here. If I can get you to New Hartford, New York, my life will be complete.
We'll go you need higher goals there, kid.
We'll bring you to Rome. You can see Harper at the funeral parlor, and then
nothing would make me happier than to visit the site of Woodstock 99 again. That would really change everything.
God, that's right. I remember meeting you guys there. Wow, that's just crazy. But Mike Sasson, former UConn offensive lineman, now a amazing stand-up comic, and took care of me for 1 year. Made sure I stayed at UConn and did a great job of that. And I will always be grateful and thankful to you for doing that, because I didn't do it to the freshmen. And you did that.
You taught them what not to do, Steve. Always remember that. That was your gift. Your gift was for the rest of their creation. They'd be like, you know what? Don't be this guy. That was your gift.
And I'm still doing that. I'm still doing that today. So that's okay.
You're killing it, brother. Keep hope alive. Keep going. And obviously, you just use the same level of toughness for whatever you got moving forward, and just keep a positive attitude. And always remember, at the end of the day, you either achieve your dreams or you die. What's the difference?
You're absolutely right. You either achieve them or you die.
Yeah, that's when someone came up to me and goes, "Are you scared?" I'm like, "Well, I'm either going to get everything I want in life or I'm going to die."
Either way.
So who cares? Who cares what happens?
Yeah, who cares? I might use that as my new tagline. But
you have to credit me.
You will. You'll get cited every time. You'll get cited.
Absolutely. Say the great Mike Sasson, who will be honest with you, I would honestly aged amazingly well. It's incredible. If we would have played the bet, we'd not have been him. But
you look like you're 220 pounds. You look like you lost a ton of weight.
I'm about 250. Yeah.
Yeah, you look amazing. So
you can't be fat in this city. That is true. You can't be fat in Los Angeles. They'll throw you out.
No, they will throw you. They will throw you out.
Yeah, they'll get your ass out of here.
There in Florida, you can't be fat. So
Florida, you can be fat. Florida, some parts.
Yeah, that's
Miami. True. You can't be fat.
No. But where Miami,
you are, Miami, you got to be beautiful. LA, you got to be beautiful and a personality.
And you have both. Thank you for coming on. This has just been wonderful, and I would talk to you for 4 hours. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate your advice. Former UConn offensive lineman, the best team in UConn history, 1998, 10-3, and a stand-up comedian who has a great act, and also a podcaster, a fellow podcaster. So always great to have you on. Thank you. And I'd like to thank again Procyon Partners, Sean Rabinowitz, Wealth Management, Employee Benefits, Retirement Planning, and one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. Blood drive or bone marrow drive for his son, Ben, has leukemia. Be the match. Go to UConn. Go get tested. If not, I'll put the website. You can sign up, have the kit sent to you. You could be the match. Save Ben's life. Pete Finch. If you're in a pinch, call Finch. If you've been arrested, or if you feel that your rights have been violated, you've been injured, car accident, personal injury, whatever, in a pinch, call Finch. And then Bleeding Blue for Good, Mike Burton, phenomenal job. He raised all this money on his own. We're 4 weeks away from the transfer portal. We need more people to donate because we need to keep the guys that are good, and we need to bring in the guys to fill the holes so we can have continued success in football. And I am your host, Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take two.